I wasn't going to make a video about this, but while in the kitchen squeezing lemons for some lemonade, trying and failing to redirect the thoughts from coming in, I couldn't stop processing through all the contradictions that would make this "the song is for everyone" mention anything but some kind of a joke. Discrepancy number 1. I made sure it didn't sound like she was singing about Cloud, Zach, or anyone specific. It's for everyone. If that were true, it would clash with the reveal that Hollow was Cloud's song to Aerith, making its meaning, well, hollow. Cloud has a song for her song for him that matches up with some of Hollow's lyrics, gets its meaning randomly nerfed, supposedly? In Remake, an instrumental version of Hollow plays only while in the Sector 5 slums, when Cloud had to explore the area solo after Aerith briefly goes inside her house, then while you're running around doing errands with her, and lastly, when Cloud has to show Tifa and Barrett the secret way to get back into Sector 7 he wouldn't have known about if not for Aerith. And they're still in Sector 5 on their way there, so it makes sense that Hollow's instrumental plays, as it and Sector 5 are linked to Aerith. And an instrumental version of No Promises to Keep plays during Cloud and Aerith's dream date in Rebirth. So, correlation? Not a coincidence. It's stated that No Promises to Keep is a love song. Yes, there are different types of love. They don't always need to be strictly romantic. It was never mentioned if Airy were into polyamory or anything, but if it were indeed a platonic love song for everyone, it would make sense for No Promises to Keep to be announced as one of such a nature at the time of its first reveal. Instead, it was unveiled alongside suggestive excerpts of Cloud and Aerith's gondola/loveless playdate at the 2023 Game Awards. A purely marketing move or not, the more romantic looking parts could have been removed while focusing on the main squad, Efalna, Elmira, and the worn cobblestones themselves. They were not shown during that showcase, but Dine was. Does this mean he's secretly included as another person Aerith somehow loves too? If No Promises to Keep is a so-called song about everyone, then sure, though she never met the guy, but hey, that logic works for Tifa somehow being in love with Cloud despite choosing to not spend any time with him as a kid, except that one night he called her out to the water tower, so yeah, why not? Go nonsensical logic. Aerith sure loves Dine, huh? He doesn't even need the worn cobblestones pass like everyone else. Or maybe he walked them one time in his life, so that automatically links him to Aerith's song. Wow. Discrepancy number 2. The singer. In one of her text comments, Loren brought up she needed to learn about Cloud, Aerith, and their relationship for the song, and was thrilled to be portraying a character with her singing. She did not include Barrett, Tifa, Elmira, Zach, Thanos, Marge Simpson, Leon, Kennedy, Claire Redfield, or Lara Croft. She only mentioned 2 of the 3 major main characters within the FF7 name, with that third being Sephiroth. Uematsu was very excited about the song and recording with Loren, boasting that it were the love song of all love songs, and he hoped it inspired many other love songs to be like it. This sharply clashes with Nojima's view, which I will elaborate on in detail later. Discrepancy number 3, the lyrics. I did not expect to need to break this down, but I may as well, since there hasn't been any April Fools bursting through the social media walls like the Kool-Aid Man yet. At this point, I doubt it will come. Alright, so I'm gonna sing a little bit. Walking city streets with worn cobblestones. Gee, now who is it that Aerith met for the very first time on a city street with worn cobblestones? Was it Zach? Nope. She first bumped into him when he fell through the roof of her church. Was it Barrett? Tifa? Avalanche? Nope. Was it Elmira? Double nope. Aerith were initially introduced to her in the Sector 5 slums. No fancy schmancy cobblestones there. The ground may as well have been made of dusty cardboard. And Ifalna is certainly out of the equation, since she birthed Aerith, and the both of them only knew the floors within the Shinra building for many years. There certainly weren't any cobblestone anythings for baby Aerith to be sloshing around on in the womb. So, next. Well, gee-golly willikers, exactly who in the world did she meet on those ding-dong-dang worn cobblestones? I'll give you a hint. Their name rhymes with Cloud Strife. Listening to people rushing past, to rhythms all around. Loveless Street was a bustling one. And she couldn't have been on that street until long after she met Zack. And he ran his Midgar full of flowers, wallet full of money spiel past her. She didn't start trying to sell them until he brought it up. So she were at least wearing her signature red jacket by this time. And definitely an adult. So anyone in her childhood and teenage years are again excluded. And removing the cobblestone context in favor of considering maybe this line is in reference to her being able to hear people within the live stream or the planet talking to her, well, that means this platonic, zero down payment, everything must go love song is her love letter to how congested, noisy, and overpopulated the planet is. Oh, and the planet's painful screaming as well. Bless Aerith and her love of the planet's hurtful screaming. Who knew she'd be a sadist? Note, that was sarcasm. Life passing me by, not thinking how the years have flown. This line is ambiguous to me, as it could mean specifically for standing on that street selling flowers, or that along with just being an Aerith who could talk to the planet, living in the slums. Both takes can definitely work here, and neither would overpower the other, in my opinion. But if this song is about everyone in her life that she's met on those worn cobblestone streets, wouldn't that include all those just passing through? Those who declined buying her flowers, those who did buy some? It would include the rude dude who stepped all over the flower she dropped in Remake's opening. That would mean this open relationship liquidation sale love song about everyone is about him too. Wow, all inclusive! How considerate of her to think a jerk not caring she were on the ground or watching where he were walking and being so happy she met him. Am I right? This would also mean that Aerith's life with Elmira was seen as just passing her by, as another same old day with nothing outrageous going on. Which would be another contradiction to the song being about Elmira too, because until I met you.
Objection!
Bam! There it is. If this song was about her love for Elmira, Aerith and Elmira were already pleasantly living together in their home for years. The same scenario Aerith previously reminisced with being considered as life just passing her by. Objection! That's a big contradiction. And feeling like life were passing little Aerith by until she met Elmira wouldn't work because there were no cobblestone city streets locked away within her confines in the Shinra building, let alone in the slums residential areas. The Shinra building, where she and her mother were seen as lab subjects. But hey, if we remove the cobblestone context once more for a moment, then her free-for-all, time attack, non-romantic love song would also include the guy who willingly enjoyed torturing her and her mother for many years, as he were an important pivotal part of her life. Wow, what a beacon of acceptance that Aerith. Her life was a drag until she met that Hojo, and she hopes she can meet him and all the other test subjects at the church, quote-unquote, their place. Right. Well, if she can, quote-unquote, love dying too, then Again, what about all the folks on Loveless Street? Life was passing her by until she met one of them? Again, she didn't meet Zach when selling flowers. He was the one who gave her the idea, and he were MIA from a large chunk of her life for several years without much control of his own. So, this part of the song is not about him. She didn't meet Barrett, Tifa, Red, Yuffie, Vincent, or anyone else during her journey until her second fateful meeting with... what was that name again? Cloud Knife? Oh, Cloud Strife. She met him on the worn cobblestones on Loveless Street. And she meets him again when he too fell through the roof of her church. From then on, and due to him, she met the others. Alright, seems like this song is primarily about her and Cloud so far. Let's continue. I won't say that it was fate. I won't say that it was destiny. But if not, what could it be that drew you towards me? Could it be chance? Within the context of these lines, stemming from the main one of meeting this destined, fateful individual via a worn cobblestone city street, whomever could she be referring to? Again, she didn't meet Ephalna or Elmira on a cobblestone city street. Certainly not Zach, Captain Crunch, or that this guy are sick general person. She certainly isn't singing about her church, as it didn't pull itself up out the ground and hobble on down Loveless Street. Can you imagine? But even that would make more sense than her meeting anyone else who wasn't Cloud. Well, okay, alright. Unless we were strictly only considering Remake Aerith and her journey, then maybe we could include a Sephiroth too. He did touch her shoulder in the beginning, and she did react like she could feel or see him. So, you know what? Alright, we've got Cloud and Sephiroth now, why not? Till the day that we meet again, where or when, I wish I could say, but believe, know that you'll find me. That could be a callback to the Loveless part of the play between Rosa and her lover. But also, she and Cloud, and Sephiroth now, throughout the main games and spin-off medias are brought together, then sent apart before reconnecting in another or different way. But they are always still drawn to each other and scripted to always meet. For instance, she and Cloud have been in a bunch of spin-offs that were not only Square related, but also done by other franchises. This speaks tremendous volumes. When I think back on it, Sephiroth has been included in the same titles with him at least 6 times? I could be wrong. I'm sure I've definitely overlooked more instances, yet it's still valid. But Aerith singing about knowing that she'll be found could also be a nod to her knowing about, or at least once knowing about, before the Whisper swooped in and tampered with memories, that she and Cloud have a knack for finding the other again across the multiverses. Promises to keep, we won't ever need. I'd also like to think this is poking a bit of fun at Cloud, Aerith, and Sephiroth, and how they would run into each other no matter what anyway, since they're always written to do so. So, no need to promise to meet again in another life. By demand of story plot reasons, they are technically bound together by fate due to contractual reasons. Till the day that we meet again. In Red's gondola date, he mentions he and Aerith previously could see the future before exiting Midgar, but the Whispers took most of the memories away from them. Although he and she both knew something bad was going to happen to her, despite not recalling what, and he made Cloud promise to keep Aerith safe. There is no reason for her till we meet again line, unless she were aware she'd be separated from this person sometime soon, of whom brought even more meaning to her life, who she met on those worn cobblestone city streets. It also makes more sense as to why she wrote the song this way for Cloud, and still currently now Sephiroth. She wanted her feelings to be known, even if they would be taken only at face value of, "Oh, what a pretty song, yes indeed." But I believe it were obvious that Cloud knew she was singing about him. He may speak in heavy monotone most of the time, but all his emotions are easily evident along his face. He appeared to be quite moved by her lyrics, and had to have known she were referring to him in some capacity. Yes, perhaps Sephiroth were in the distance enjoying the song too. Straight up jamming, thinking it were about him. Again, why not? Alright, so we've still got Aerith singing what is primarily an exclusive love song to Cloud and Sephiroth, as she met them both on those worn cobblestone streets, and her life changed tremendously after meeting the both of them. Continuing forward. At our place, just let me believe in the chance that you'll come. She made it obvious, and Cloud even states that she made the hint as such for quote-unquote their spot. Phew! Finally, this one is definitely a her and Cloud only, so Sephi can finally get the boot from this inclusion now. He can get sent to the Shadow Realm for all it matters now. No, it doesn't mean this is her spot with Zack, an Angeal copy, or even Deno, although they have physically come into her church because she did not meet them on those floofing initial cobblestone city streets. The Turks knew where she lived and tracked her down that way. The church is her and Cloud's place. Take my hand and never let me go. Of course, this line goes hand in hand, no pun intended, but it's there in the wide open, isn't it? With Hollow's, I will never let you go. And we again know that song is about Cloud's guilt and is in his point of view towards Aerith, knowing she's long gone, but hopes to find her again smiling brightly. Take my hand and believe we can be together forevermore. Shine bright once more. Guide me to you. Had I realized, had I thought it through, would you be here in my embrace? Between these two songs, it's as if Cloud's guilt is calling out, wailing, while Aerith's warm hope is reaching out for him. In the live stream, and going by the maiden who travels the planet, she could hear his heart when it broke, the moment he lost her. So live stream Aerith knows he cares, or else we would have never gotten the "you can't fall in love with me" line in Remake. It also casts a different light on his response of coming for her, when she gave him a perplexed expression at first, as if to say, "But I'm already gone. You're looking at an alternate version of me in the live stream." But then, remembering what timeline he were in, to continue with, "If that's what you want, thank you." She knows his heart, and although she seems to have some power over the live stream and multiple realities, she still carries the pure hope they can meet again across time and space. It's sweet. Discrepancy number 4, the flower petal. And this is a real important one. If this open-ended, all-inclusive, ambiguous love song were truly about everyone Aerith has met or cared for in general, and not just on them their cobblestone city streets, then that casts mystery on how only Cloud received one of her flower petals to hold close. In that respect, all her friends and everyone she'd interacted with throughout her life should have gotten one. Even an off-screen Elmira should have randomly received one that could have blown in through a cracked window or from under the door if it were to be so important and symbolic for her to be a part of this impactful song. A plethora of flowers were right in her backyard. So there is no excuse for the lack of this occurrence, if going by the "for everyone Aerith loved" context. Or, since Aerith's performance were via hologram, it could have been possible for her to imagine all her friends, mothers, along with Zack and Cloud there cheering her on and waving to her while they all clasped a flower petal, proud to have one. This did not occur. Even outside of that, if strictly choosing the Clarith date, still only Cloud is the sole one to be given that petal, and he holds it dearly to his chest. It lingers only for him. If Cloud were on a date with Tifa, Yuffie, Barrett, or Red, if no promises to keep were indeed about them all too, where were their flowers? Huh? What? Cloud doesn't even get one if he's with someone else on stage. In addition to that, after finishing her song, Aerith doesn't bother to look their way again. She only gazes at Cloud during this moment if he's on the date with her. But wait! Isn't No Promises to Keep supposed to be about her love for all of them? For everyone she's met, all her friends and loved ones collectively? Why should it matter if Cloud has a different date than her or not for this purely platonic, familial, buddy-buddy, comrades-only love song? Gee, what mystery! Once again, No Promises to Keep is a love song for Aerith and who? Crowd Life! Disavowed Trife? Gasp! Gasp! Perhaps could it be Cloud Strife again? How dare! Unfortunately, Zack is automatically excluded here, as in, a petal fluttered into his hand, then flew away. It didn't stay, so by default, he is disqualified. But still, Sephiroth didn't get one. Neither did Nemesis, Riku, Wolf Girl Joe, Chris Redfield, Sheva Alomar, or Alexia Ashford of the Ashford family. Even Marinette, Luca, and Adrian were left out. And they've got plenty of cobblestone streets. Strawberry Shortcake was left out too, and she's a very people-loving berry. How can Aerith snub her like that? Wow, I guess this supposedly all-inclusive, no holds barred, all expenses paid, no money down guarantee, 15% juice platonic love song isn't about Aerith's love for everyone after all. It's about who? Loud Bryce? Loud Wife? Oh, that darn Cloud Strife again. Oh, him. I anticipate Cloud and Aerith both having a song that they perform together in the last installment. Discrepancy number 5. If this song were for all her friends, she wouldn't have gotten so annoyed at Kate trying to read it. I'd imagine she'd giggle, then playfully go, "Shh, keep this between us, okay? I want everyone surprised," or the like. She didn't even want Cloud snooping in on her feelings before she could properly have them revealed, and she didn't even know she were the one singing the song until the last minute. I can understand if, from Aerith's point of view, for her to want to write something that meant a lot to her, and her adventures with all her friends, and to be thankful of every moment she'd shared with others along the way, and wanted to pour out her gratitude into the lyrics. But whatever that song is, it is not No Promises to Keep. At least not the version we all got. In my opinion, there are too many contradictions that end up entirely excluding her friends, her mothers, and everyone else while putting the focus on her and Cloud alone. If that flower petal symbolism wasn't proof enough, the fact she doesn't even glance over to her friends with Cloud on stage when he's dating the others at the Gold Saucer by the end of her song is more than revealing. It comes off as painful. She's hurt. Here she winds up writing a song about this guy who helped her see a new perspective on life, singing her heart out, and he doesn't even choose her? Yes, she glances over once before she sings, sees who he's with, then doesn't look at them again until the curtain call. On one hand, it's what her livestream self in Remake asked for. She knew how destroyed Cloud would become over losing her and wanted to avoid it altogether or to soften the blow. On the other hand, it was important to her that she make as many memories with Cloud as possible, to the point of it almost feeling forced and definitely mandatory story-wise. So, the way I see it, if he's dating someone else at the saucer before she sings, when she peeks over with a smile, she's silently supporting them. Once she finishes the last line of her song, she can't bear to see them with the man she just belted her heart out about like this. When it's just Cloud watching her from the wings, she and he appear to hold eye contact, and for multiple lingering shots that weren't even needed after she sings the last bit. I take it as her definitely letting him know he don't want, and she meant what she sang. If it turns out this wasn't a joke, despite suspiciously dropping on April Fool's Day, then that's one way to persuade a chunk of the fandom to consider boycotting your game, and possibly future titles as well if your words will water down what the rest of your team has poured into a beloved character, or any character. These guys in these multi-million-dollar RPGs aren't just paper doll cutouts for the most part. Though Lunafreya gets honorable mention on that because her character was shaped so poorly. The game would have been better for me without her in it. Let FF15 be the man-meat sausage fest it came out as. Noctis even has the option to say the wedding is just for appearances, or some equivalent, because I chose that option. Lunafreya were there 1 minute, and then gone for the remainder. All her hype was crammed into movies, shorts, and other media that wasn't the main game, where it should have been the most prominent in. That may have changed by now with DLC, but bottom line, if she's the only FF character who is better off not even being there for me, that's how insignificant her presence was, in my opinion. Her brief cameos and permanent absence have the equivalence of one expecting a tax refund of $3,000 but winding up with 25 cents. Like, is that it? That can't be it. Where's the rest? Or shelling out hundreds for a 5-star gourmet high-class meal and receiving half a cup of overpriced noodles with a dusting of meat on the side of an otherwise largely empty plate. What do you mean that's it? So when there's a highly significantly iconic character like Aerith, Artemisia, despite her coming out of nowhere, or Garnet and Yuna, it bodes well to be very assiduous, caring, and considerate of these characters. They are being given a life of sorts. Take FF10-2 for instance. Sure, the battle system was cool, but Yuna went from a strong, tragic character to a washed-out version of herself for the sake of becoming a childish peekaboo. To me, her being forced to go that route was interesting because I always thought that despite Yuna being the female lead in 10, she and Titus Tida weren't all that compatible. And he were better off with Deku because they got each other. They were within the same kind of lax maturity bracket, and their vibrant personalities complemented the other. And then in 10-2, the formerly more serious, dutiful, and vigilant Yuna turned into a silly, immature, oh poopy copy of Deku anyway. It's also funny to me that both 10 and 10-2 are mandatory bundles now and have been since PS3/Vita days. I wonder why. Wouldn't they make more money between two different games like they did the first time around? Oh, wait a minute, likely not. Not to mention, hardly anyone, and respectfully so, tends to willingly bring up the novella explaining what happened after Titus Tida and Yuna reunite at the end of 10-2, which doesn't even follow the true ending. Why, it's explosively mind-blowing. LOL. This is why keeping continuity with your characters and caring for them is so important. And yes, there will be a lot of notes for you to go through to keep with that continuity, but imagine if one day Sephiroth went from being the way he is to just speaking with a country accent all of a sudden. That wouldn't work. Even with some kind of explanation, that wouldn't work. My puppet, I tell you what, you got 7 seconds to the end. 7 seconds. Time enough for you? Perhaps. Well, what will you do with that there time? So, yes. Watering down or lessening the oomph of a character and any of their important meanings is a big, noticeable deal. I prefer to think that the lyrics explanation part of the interview were a bit of trolling by intentionally misleading or withholding information in the same vein as that Tifa and Cloud gondola date advert, where Cloud mistakenly went, "Calm down, Aerith," to Tifa. That was really funny and drawn out for a reason, except that one had more truth to it, in my opinion. Although, there probably wasn't anything joking about that interview's answer. During that interview clip for the lyrics of No Promises to Keep being platonic instead of romantic, there was really only Nojima talking while the other two held similar positions for lengthy periods of time, let him, and outright laugh during one of his explanations. He was the only one to smile while saying his piece. And we know how Nomura loves his FF7 aspects, yet he added nothing to any of what Nojima were describing, verbally anyway. For him to sit through this in complete silence with his head in his hand is telling. He didn't say a word. And Uematsu, who worked closely with Loren and proudly composed the song, hardly even moved. The fact that they sat in the exact same, "I don't want to go through with this," mostly stiff body language and complete silence, while Nojima laughed when saying the song was about Aerith not wanting a repeat of what happened with her mother, that he also incorporated into the lyrics, then emphasized right after that he really did write it to be about everyone Aerith loved because she was that lonely as the last Cetra, casted a huge stark difference to their music conversation before the lyrics section arose. There were no definite nods of affirmation, no mm-hms, or any verbal sound, anything like the vibrancy they brought to the topics before and after that one. So this is one of the reasons why it has me believe it could come off as a jokey, leg-pulling instance, only because Nojima laughed when saying he incorporated all those feelings into the lyrics. At the very least, the severe backlash could help Square Enix social media crew weed out the more problematic fan accounts with clearer ease. I also find it hilarious that for the larger whole of the video, they were all adding in all sorts of comments and jokes about everything, but when it were Nojima's turn to discuss what he did about the lyrics, I swear, Nomura's discomfort was blaringly obvious. His posture was a bit slouched, and he scratched his head several times when before, in extreme contrast, he was sitting up, attentively in active conversation. Head scratching can show confusion, discomfort, or disagreement. Heck, there was even an over-the-shoulder close-up of one of those scratches with him in the blurry foreground and the pic of Aerith in the focus. So you can't miss that one! A couple times, the back of his hand also covered his mouth. Like when Nojima stated he made sure the song wasn't specifically about Cloud or Zack, and again when he described it as being a song about everyone Aerith has loved. Any kind of body language where the hand is covering the mouth when someone else is speaking tends to mean that individual has spoken something they either shouldn't have or what may not be entirely true, and you, as the listener, might be holding yourself back from saying so. Uematsu hardly changed position, but his expression and posture seemed to deflate slightly, going from an "okay, I'm listening," to a flat palm against the face that does not match the same thing that I did. Even if I'm entirely wrong on all of that. There is no denying an overwhelming perceived discomfort throughout that room when only Nojima was making points from his point of view when writing. Because how is a group of people with good synergy gonna go from comfortably making jokes, excitedly adding to the other's opinions, and being supportive to sharing zero interactions or interjections in an atmosphere practically begging for the sound of crickets to fill it? And only after that moment is over to then go back to color the room with mutual liveliness again. That stands out as really odd, man. And it's significant that this happened specifically during the spotlight on Nojima, explaining his thoughts for the writing, because after that, once Uematsu were talking about how he crafted Aerith's theme, all three of them went back to casually sharing their feelings, comments, and making casual jokes again. Like Nojima didn't just indirectly undermine the heart that went into the original game's entire narrative or passion poured into Aerith's character throughout every media she's been linked to Cloud in. In my opinion, massive discomfort is what I saw. In-game, while Aerith does care for her friends, Cloud is the one she checks in with the most and wants to have as many interactions with as possible. It's Cloud she goes on that out-of-the-blue impromptu dream date with and makes sure it happens before Big Sephi shows up at the church. Cloud and no other character. Again, when she's singing No Promises to Keep, if she's his date, she looks over at him several times. If the others are his date, she'll ultimately choose to not look over at them by the end of the song. This is highly significant, because if she were singing about her universal love for them too, wouldn't she be keeping her eyes between them and the audience? As that's where her friends would be. The fandom though? Oh boy. Now that was a disheartening shock for me. When the clip of that interview video made its rounds on Twitter, the Clariths were already angrily pointing fingers straight out the gate. And not only towards the Clody side, but at the very game company themselves. Calling them all sorts of names like cowards and hypocrites who did an immediate backtrack on the song purely to appease the wrong side of the fandom that had also sent them death threats and always complained about Tifa's EC outfits. I liked them. I thought they worked well with her character. But that grousing on their part may be just because Tifa doesn't get the fancy gowns Aerith does. No one complains about the other girls' outfits, and hers are similar to Tifa's style. Saucy. But Tifa is just a skirt and pants or shorts girl, while Aerith is the leggy dress wearer. Anyway, that's off topic. The Clodies were having a field day, also not skimping out on the Clarith name calling, while magically agreeing with what Nojima spoke, and only him, by the way, were what they had been saying all along, and how Clody, the pairing, won and began throwing mocking words in the Clarith's faces. What really bothered me about both sides lashing out was that it happened in the first place. Instead of them both keeping to their lanes or participating and only looking at the scenes or fan content they knew they already loved, they immediately opted for war, drama, and discord, like they craved it more than FF7 itself as a whole. I can believe that. Many of them seem to. From what I've seen, fingers were instantly pointed. Opposing pairing fandoms and even all of Square Enix alike were the targets. I'm certainly not playing gatekeeper here, as there are some people out there who just do love their drama and like to stir it up. I'm only stating my opinion and what I've seen. For the Clariths, how can you go from, yeah, our ship is endgame, cry about it, clots, SE loves Clarith, to, how can they do this to us? I'm so tired of SE's nonsense. They always do this and take things away from us. Yes, the high five and two hands in Cloud's palm that Cloud and Aerith once only shared were given to Tifa now too, and partially to the Shinra middle manager, lol, but no one is going for his throat. Although, if you love Clarith and know their relationship is solid, especially when many spin-offs exist exclusively featuring the two of them together in some way, or they're separated but looking to find each other, or getting married for crying out loud, there's no reason to bite the hand that feeds or shout out the quote-unquote opposing fandom that it's their fault SE have become people-pleasing cowards only in your point of view. Cloud and Aerith's affections, serendipitous meetings, and their emphatic relationship are canon, and they have been for 27 years. They are intertwined with each other's lives seemingly forever. Take that W and run with it, instead of delving into Clody or Aerith territory solely to get a petty rise out of them for supporting the wrong side and hating on Tifa. The Clodys do that themselves, from what I've seen. You know, hilariously enough, I haven't seen any discourse over Sung and Aerith. Of course, there's likely some out there, but the most back and forth anger and rage I've seen throughout the fandom deals mostly with Clody, Clarith, and Xaereth. Sephiroth, there's hardly any major discourse. Sure, they still get attacked, but nobody goes after Sung and Aerith shippers. That's just funny to me. Interesting. Sakura seems pretty safe too. And for the Clodys and Xaereth, I always found it funny that when an official pairing is favored by its creators and cast or is strongly featured throughout media, but isn't the one most fans are heavily passionate and clamorous about, there are always those within those different factions who go, well, there is no canon pairing, so pick whatever ship you want. They're all optional anyway. Or, see, I knew it. The story was never about ships. They're all valid because they all care about each other. That's what I've been saying from day one. Or, those stupid Clariths are at it again, being toxic while reaching for scraps, trying to make dumb Cloud and annoying Aerith relevant as a pairing again. Like she didn't just cheat on Zack and go for his best friend behind his back. As if she isn't disrespecting Tifa too, knowing how Tifa feels about Cloud. Cloud and Aerith are so platonic, they may as well be sibling-coded. Go touch some grass, delusional Clariths. Your beloved crack ship will never be canon. How delulu do you have to be to cherish someone you just bumped into? Wow. Oh, but it'd be okay for Zack and Aerith to remain together and cherish each other when they just bumped into each other? Or Cloud and Tifa, when they really only truly met when Tifa bumped into him, muttering to himself at the train station one day in Sector 7. And if you support Squall and Denoa, you do remember she were dating another guy when she met Squall, then later ended it to be with him? And good thing she did too, because her ex tried to sacrifice her. Yuna literally married a guy before getting with Titus Tita. Are you saying you support that negative partnership with her and Seymour that was purely unromantic but seen as necessary for merging cultures, when in actuality he just wanted to use her? By the same bumped into / were with first logic, you are saying Yuna should have stayed trapped with Seymour just because she were with him before the other guy. So it's seen as wrong, inhumane, and unethical for Cloud and Aerith to outgrow their first loves? Sure can. What about the first person you bumped into that you thought would cherish and truly love you, but then you met someone who actually did and showed it by carefully helping you pick up and clear away the pieces that first person left behind? And let's not forget, a number of our beloved Disney movies have the main love interest literally fall in love or get married within 3 days or less, or at least shorter than a whole week upon meeting each other for the first time. Does the kiss of true love before the sunset of the 3rd day ring any bells? Snow White, Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, and so on. Elemental is the most recent example that I've seen of this, so it's obvious this formula still works. Final Fantasy characters are apparently no different, since some people were saying that Cloud and Aerith were only hanging out with each other for 3 days or so it was impossible for them to fall in love. But if you go along with this trend in Disney movies or other forms of media that do this, have characters fall in love within 3 days or less than a week, then what grounds do you have to stand on to go against Cloud and Aerith? Just because they're Cloud and Aerith? You may as well come out and say you just don't like the pairing, instead of trying to trash it and make it seem like it's not canon, like it's nothing. Come on, be honest with yourself. So please, enjoy your Clody and Xaereth moments, along with the copious amounts of imaginative and awesomely drawn fan content in peace. You guys already win the popularity majority and have for decades. Even if Cloud and Aerith got married again, several more instances in official media on top of the 2 or 3 times they already have been shown to, you can always guffaw with your arms akimbo at that, and praise your spaces for having the most arts and fanfics for your favorite pairings. Aerith, while canon with over at least 15 cameo appearances throughout multiple forms of media together, appears to be the least favorite pairing considered by the vast majority of the fanbase, ironically. So you guys can definitely have tons of fun amongst yourselves without putting anyone else down, or hating on your own beloved Tifa when she isn't given a fancy outfit like Aerith tends to get, or an official outcome isn't to your liking, so you choose to believe the dev team secretly hates her too. LOL. On the bright side for you, the creative team behind FFEC seems to lean more towards Clody in their event stories. For example, Tifa practically being the secret sweetheart for the Valentine event as the only one who could cook well and had the oven mitts weapon, which was highly fitting. The graphic for the character story splash page feature Yeehaw Tifa's cowboy hat and Cloud's grunt visor, one on top of the other. And the newer Easter event where it were claimed the quote-unquote 2 white lighthouses that would lead him to happiness nearby were actually the makeshift bunny ears that Tifa were wearing. Yes, Aerith had bunny ears too, but those could easily be distinguished as the closest replica to the actual thing. Tifa's were more abstract to be considered the most lighthousey in comparison, in my opinion. And she was standing right in front of Cloud at the time. Also for that event, Cloud switched up, going from, "I don't like tea," and walking away from Tifa's attempts to sway him into what she demanded he do for her in favor of aiding Aerith's plight to "that outfit suits you," and then actually winning some tea, specifically with her, contradicting his own previous words, after Tifa again strong-armed and guilt-tripped him into doing something she wanted him to do, by manipulating him with the "what about your best/childhood friend" type of complaint whenever he gives her a no, or he tries to walk out. But he still hangs around her and Sephiroth, so maybe he low-key likes getting dogged, manipulated, and pushed around. Well, Sephi does refer to him as a puppet, so it fits. Heck, the marketing also seems to like pairing Cloud and Tifa on the same banner sometimes, along with Aerith and Zack. But the same can oddly be stated for Sephi and Glenn? Okay. The latest banners had a lot of characters to choose from at the same time, but Aerith, Tifa, and Cloud were paired with other characters. Blah! That's a bit off topic anyways. And yes, I'm sure one will be ready with the argument, but Aerith physically pulls Cloud around all the time! I'm not a fan of her feeling the need to be so outright grabby and yank him around like he's some mindless plushie, but that's just her thing towards him, and he obviously must enjoy it and is fine with it. He lets it happen all the time. She grabs, pulls, and holds on to him like that, but he never dissuades her from it, as if he just encourages it from her, like he won't it. But the difference there is, if he told her to stop, or if he said no, she would stop, she would back off, and she wouldn't instantly pull the "what about my feelings towards you not wanting to engage in something I want? How can you do this to your friend?" card, like Tifa would. And no, doing that is not cute. It's throwing Cloud's feelings and way of being out the window solely to appease her. That's not loving, that's manipulation. But again, he always gives in to it at the end and thinks him having his own preferences was the problem and unnecessarily apologizes for it. Like, imagine someone you were fond of got mad at you for being honest and upfront with them. Example, them. "Thanks for stopping by. Would you like to stay a little longer for dinner?" You. "Nah, I've got to get back on the road or else I won't get home until after midnight. It's a long drive. I've got to get to work early." Them. "So, you're just gonna walk out on me like this? After all we've been through together, I haven't seen you in years, and you want to leave now? Who cares if you have things you need to take care of? I want you to stay right here with me. I'll even make your favorite meal for supper." You. "But I don't want that. sorry, I really need to go. If I'm late even once, my boss will fire me. I've watched it happen to others on the spot, and I'm not hungry right now. Them. How can you do this to me? I'm your friend! Congratulations! Welcome to a glaring red flag. Tifa has pulled this stunt at least 3 different times. In the OG, when Cloud was going to leave the bar before the second bombing mission were agreed upon, during the calm argument in Rebirth, and with the EC Easter event being the most recent. But again, Cloud must like it and have a serious degradation kink, as he will always apologize like he's the problem, and cater to his quote-unquote friends' demand in the end. Overall, in my opinion, the total amount of Cloud Aerith hints and canon we all get throughout multiple titles and franchises is the equivalent of an endless all-you-can-eat buffet. To put finite numbers on it, however, think of a small diner packed to its fullest with 60 customers that serves meals of Thanksgiving proportions with 17 different desserts that can be chosen from alongside a complimentary slice to take home with you. That restaurant often adds even more fantastic foods to the menu, despite its small size and out-of-the-way location. They always have a full house around the clock and the funds to spoil their regulars and new customers with many new additions and surprises. It may not be the most popular eatery on the block in its single secluded location that requires a map to find for the first time, maybe, but it takes great care of itself and those who love the food there. The food equivalent for the Clody fanbase compared to its official content, to me, is like having this huge, gigantic chain restaurant. Thousands of establishments in every state with many instances of one building across the street from another and one more down the road. Although all they sell each customer is one slice of greasy pizza that's allowed just one topping and a large soft drink with one free refill and only if it's water. This place has no milkshakes or desserts. Although the servings are meager portions that are always frozen or canned and never made fresh from scratch in-house, this can be more than enough for some people. They don't need an endless buffet brimming with extras and dedication. They love their mediocre pizza and gladly show it to the world under the hyped up label of it being the best slice of one-topping pizza ever in all the universe, while mostly sharing the same 2 or 3 photos of its best sides over and over again across their social medias to support this claim. The food equivalent, only in my opinion, for Aerith is 1/3 of a slice of cake plus 1 stray crumb that look great under the light, but is a little stale and hard to the touch. In order to glean support for this cake and the solitary crumb, they might put down the ever-providing, bustling business of the tiny diner and glaze over how massively mass-produced the pizzas of the pizza place are, saying it's both restaurants' fault their cake and crumb eatery isn't more popular. They'd especially blame the rural diner that's far out of the way and nowhere near them. They continue to eat at their chosen bakery out of self-imposed obligation. They know it isn't the best, but would sooner grab food from that pizza chain than order a 6-star dessert from that diner. Yes, 6-star. Beyond the best of the best quality over there. Even the bakery itself wasn't too convinced by their own desserts. They considered selling their shop to become part of the diner business. Either way, despite obvious differences and preferences, there are multitudes of factions to thrive in that can be enjoyed. Yet, I expect the drama, finger-pointing, and name-calling to continue, because that's just something humans do, apparently, as there are all sorts of things that already stealthily separate us and put us against each other on purpose. Flat earthers versus round earthers, middle class versus upper class, brunettes versus blondes, vegans versus meat eaters, athletic folk versus bona fide couch potatoes, the same idea of God or gods and goddesses having different names like Aphrodite versus Venus or Zeus versus Jupiter, and so on and so forth. It seems to just not be thought about and acted on instead. That person is a Clarence/Clody/Aerith. I'm gonna make fun of them for liking what resonates with them the most because I believe my pairing is best. Doesn't make it right, yet here we are. You can be proud and passionate without putting another down. But regardless on what really happened with the crafting of No Promises to Keep, all parts of the FF7 fandom have official tidbits they can enjoy and fawn over, and tons of fan content where they can make their own. If a Aerith dropped a pencil on the floor, are Clodies going to place the blame solely on the Clarith under the belief that their love for Aerith caused the Aerith's grip to be too weak to even hold a simple utensil? If a Clodie sneezes, are the Clariths going to gang up on them, claim their sneeze doesn't deserve a tissue because it was an optional scene that didn't count since they could have held it in or coughed instead? If any rare pair shippers happily gushed about their favorite pairing in their own corner, minding their own business, would Clodies, Clarith, and Aerith kick the rare pair social media door in, shove their favorite official and non-official moments down their throats while putting down what makes the rare pair lover happy, and claim and declare they should be hyping their favorite pairing instead because it's the right one that makes the most sense? Come on. There are more than enough fandom things to be grateful for instead. Partial April Fool's joke or not. But since that clip were part of a larger video that now has the entirety of its comment section rightfully turned off, it's probably safe to say Nojima's words weren't an April Fool's joke after all. But it's obvious something either wasn't being mentioned or clarified due to the feedback and body language from the others, in my opinion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed to defensively state that a love song was great and all, but once again, in my opinion, either way, if it were Square Enix's goal to stealthily stir up their fanbase to see where they all stood or what they might be ready for, they sure got it. LOL. Overall, I'm grateful we have Hollow and No Promises to Keep, along with such large-scale, heartfelt titles that are truly an amazing homage to the original game. Blessed. Thank you for watching.